Most divers assume AI dive computers are just fancier versions of traditional ones, maybe a sharper screen or a few extra features. But the truth is, we're talking about fundamentally different tools. AI models monitor your heart rate, adjust decompression algorithms based on how hard you're working, and track biometric data in real time. They also cost twice as much and rely on sensors that can fail. So, are they actually better or just more complicated? I'm Ray Hollister, and I've been testing dive computers since the early digital models hit the water in the 1980s.
You're listening to the Scuba Gear Lab podcast. Quick heads up before we get started, all the research, testing, and writing you're about to hear comes from real divers with decades of experience, but the voice delivering it is AI generated. Just wanted you to know how we're putting this together. If you've been listening for a while now, thank you. Seriously, it's great having you along for these. And if you just hit play for the first time, thanks for giving us a shot. New episodes land every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today we're getting into something I get asked about constantly, whether air dive computers are actually worth the extra money or if traditional computers still do the job better for most divers. Let's get into it. I've watched this technology evolve from simple depth and time calculators to sophisticated life support instruments. The latest wave, AI dive computers versus traditional dive computers, represents the biggest functional leap I've seen in decades. Here's what actually matters when you're deciding between them. Let me give you the verdict up front. AI dive computers offer biometric monitoring and adaptive algorithms that traditional models can't match, but they cost 40 to 60% more and introduce battery-dependent sensors that can fail. Traditional computers remain the more reliable choice for most recreational divers, while AI models make sense for technical divers, those with specific health concerns, or divers who want workload and stress tracking. Now let's talk about what separates these two types of computers in practical terms. I'm not going to read you a spec sheet line by line, but here's the overview. AI dive computers give you biometric monitoring, heart rate, breathing rate, skin temperature through wrist or tank-mounted sensors, plus real-time workload calculation. Traditional computers don't monitor any of that. They rely on manual dive planning and your own awareness. On the algorithm side, AI models adjust nitrogen loading calculations based on measured exertion and heart rate. Some models reduce your no decompensation limit by 10 to 30% during high workload dives. Traditional computers use fixed algorithms like Buhlmann ZHL16C or RGBM with optional conservatism settings you choose before the dive. Price-wise, AI models run $900 to $2,400 for wrist mount models with full biometric integration, and you'll add another $300 to $500 if you want transmitter-based breathing sensors. Traditional computers cost $300 to $900 for recreational wrist computers with air integration, or $150 to $400 for basic non-AI models. Battery life is shorter on AI computers, 18 to 36 hours of dive time on rechargeable lithium, and the biometric sensors require calibration and have a lifespan of 200 to 500 dives. You also need proprietary charging cables. Traditional computers run on user-replaceable CR2032 batteries that last 2 to 4 years, and there's no sensor calibration required. Reliability is where traditional computers shine. They have a proven track record. Failure is typically limited to battery depletion, pressure sensor drift that you can catch during pre-dive checks, or display degradation. AI computers can experience heart rate sensor dropout in cold water below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, condensation interference with optical sensors, and software crashes requiring a reboot mid-dive. That last one is rare, but documented.
Moving on to biometric monitoring and what you're actually getting, the defining feature separating AI dive computers from traditional dive computers is biometric sensor integration, specifically heart rate monitoring, breathing rate calculation from tank pressure fluctuations, and in some cases, skin temperature tracking. I've been diving with the Garmin Descent Mk3i for the past 18 months, and here's what that data actually tells you. Real-time workload assessment that correlates your heart rate and breathing rate to estimate physical exertion. When you're fighting a current at 80 feet and your heart rate climbs from 65 to 110 beats per minute, while your SAC rate jumps from zero point 0.6 to 1.2 cubic feet per minute, the computer flags elevated workload. On some models, it reduces your no decompression limit by 15 to 20% to account for increased nitrogen uptake under stress. Does this matter? For most recreational reef dives in calm conditions, honestly, no. Your body's pretty good at telling you when you're working too hard. But I've seen 3 scenarios where biometric monitoring genuinely adds value. First, technical and decompression diving, where precise decompression obligation tracking matters. If you're running deco stops after a 180-foot wreck penetration, knowing your actual exertion level versus what you think it is helps validate whether your body is off-gassing as the algorithm expects. Second, cold water diving below 50 degrees, where peripheral vasoconstriction and neoprene compression can mask early signs of overexertion or hypothermia. The computer sees your heart rate climbing and your skin temperature dropping before you consciously register the problem. That said, optical heart rate sensors struggle in cold water. I've had multiple dropouts below 48 degrees when vasoconstriction reduces blood flow to wrist capillaries. Chest strap sensors work better, but require additional equipment and Bluetooth pairing that can be finicky. Third, divers with cardiac history or age-related concerns who want objective data on physiological stress during dives. If your cardiologist cleared you for diving but wants you monitoring exertion levels, biometric computers provide documentation traditional models can't. The heart rate monitoring in dive computers relies on optical sensors that measure blood volume changes through your skin, the same photoplethysmography tech in fitness trackers. Accuracy ranges from plus or minus 3 to 5 beats per minute in ideal conditions to plus or minus 15 beats per minute or complete dropout in cold water during rapid ascents or when the strap isn't snug against your wrist.
Let's get into algorithm adaptation and whether this is smarter math or just marketing. Traditional dive computers run fixed decompression algorithms, most commonly Buhlmann ZHL16C with gradient factors, RGBM, which stands for Reduced Gradient Bubble Model, or proprietary variations. You set a conservatism level before the dive, +0, +1, +2, and the computer calculates nitrogen loading based on depth, time, and programmed tissue compartment half times. It doesn't care if you're swimming hard or drifting in neutral buoyancy. The math stays the same. AI dive computers versus traditional dive computers diverge here because AI models use biometric input to modify those calculations in real time. The theory is that higher heart rate and breathing rate indicate increased cardiac output and metabolic demand, which accelerates nitrogen uptake and bubble formation. By reducing NDL during high workload periods, the algorithm builds in additional conservatism when your body is most stressed. I've tested this extensively on working dives, equipment recovery, underwater construction projects, current-heavy drift dives, and the NDL reduction is real. On a 90-foot dive with the Shearwater Peregrine TX, my traditional algorithm gave me 23 minutes of bottom time at conservatism +1. The same profile on a Garmin Descent Mk3i with elevated heart rate, 95 to 105 beats per minute versus my resting 62, and increased breathing rate, shaved that down to 18 minutes, a 22% reduction. Here's the thing. We don't have definitive clinical evidence that this adaptive algorithm actually reduces DCS risk better than well-established gradient factors. The U.S. Navy, NOAA, and commercial diving standards still rely on traditional Buhlmann or Navy tables with fixed conservatism factors. What we do know is that higher workload correlates with increased DCS incidence in retrospective studies, and adaptive algorithms theoretically account for that. But whether the specific adjustments these computers make are optimally calibrated, unknown. For recreational divers doing no-deco diving within NDLs, this feature mostly just shortens your bottom time. If you're already diving conservatively, which I recommend, you're probably surfacing before the AI algorithm would pull you up anyway. For technical divers doing staged decompression, adaptive algorithms can extend deco stops when the computer detects elevated stress, potentially useful, but also potentially overcautious compared to proven gradient factor approaches.
Now let's talk about battery life, sensors, and what breaks first. I've sent more dive computers back for warranty service in the past 3 years than in the previous 15 combined, and biometric sensors are the culprit. Optical heart rate sensors sit exposed on the back of your wrist unit, subjected to salt water, depth pressure, and mechanical impact. They fail. Not catastrophically, the computer still functions as a traditional dive computer, but you lose the biometric features you paid for. Average sensor lifespan in my experience is 200 to 500 dives before accuracy degrades or the sensor stops reading entirely. That's 2 to 4 years for frequent divers, 5 to 8 years for vacation divers. Replacement isn't usually do-it-yourself. You're sending the computer back to the manufacturer, and that's a $200 to $400 repair outside of warranty. Traditional computers, by contrast, have pressure sensors and displays as primary failure points, both of which are far more robust. I'm still using a Suunto D4i from 2014, over 600 dives, with original battery life and zero functional degradation. My first generation Garmin Descent MiC needed sensor service after 240 dives. Battery technology also diverges sharply. AI dive computers use rechargeable lithium batteries with 18 to 36 hours of GPS and dive tracking per charge. That's fine for a weekend trip, but on a liveaboard with 4 to 5 dives per day, you're charging nightly. Forget your proprietary charging cable, you're done diving. Traditional computers run user-replaceable CR2032 batteries that last 2 to 4 years and can be swapped between dives with a coin and a spare O-ring. I tell people this: if you're diving remote locations, Indonesia, South Pacific, cenotes in Mexico, bring a traditional computer as backup, even if you're diving AI primary. I've seen too many divers benched on day 3 of a trip because their AI computer died and they had no redundancy. Let's be blunt about money. AI dive computers versus traditional dive computers breaks down to a $600 to $1,500 price premium for biometric features. A solid traditional wrist computer, like the Suunto D5, runs around $500 to $600 with full air integration. Check the link below to see the current price. An AI-equipped Garmin Descent MiC 3i costs around $1,300 to $1,500. Check the link below to see the current price. You're paying double or more. What justifies that cost? If you're a technical diver doing trimix, decompression dives, or a cave penetration where workload monitoring adds genuine safety value, the premium makes sense. If you have cardiac concerns or want objective exertion data for medical reasons, it's worth it. If you're doing 10 to 15 recreational reef dives per year in warm water and staying well within NDLs, you're spending extra money for features you'll rarely use meaningfully. I've also seen a troubling trend: divers buying AI computers for the cool factor without understanding the operational differences. They don't calibrate the sensors properly, they don't keep the software updated, and they end up frustrated when the computer behaves differently than expected. An AI computer isn't plug-and-play the way traditional models are. You need to invest time in setup and understanding what the data means. One more consideration: resale value. Traditional dive computers hold value well because they're simpler and less dependent on evolving technology. AI computers depreciate faster, sensors age, software becomes outdated, and newer models with better algorithms come out every 18 to 24 months. Buying used AI computers is risky because you don't know sensor condition or remaining lifespan. Here's something that doesn't show up in spec sheets. AI dive computers versus traditional dive computers differ dramatically in how much information they throw at you underwater, and that affects cognitive load when you should be focused on your surroundings. A traditional computer shows depth, NDL or deco obligation, tank pressure if it's air integrated, and maybe ascent rate. Clean, simple, easy to read at a glance even in low visibility or when task loaded. I can check my Shearwater Peregrine in under 2 seconds and refocus on the dive.
AI computers add heart rate, breathing rate, workload indicators, skin temperature, and adaptive algorithm warnings. Some models display this well. Garmin's multi-screen layout lets you toggle between views, but others cram it all on one screen and it becomes cluttered. I've watched divers spend 10 to 15 seconds staring at their computers trying to parse information that should be instant. If you're new to diving or still building situational awareness skills, cognitive overload from too much data is a real concern. I've seen divers so fixated on their biometric readings that they missed their buddy's low air signal or drifted into overhead environments. More data isn't always better if it distracts from core dive awareness. The flip side, if you're comfortable with computer interfaces and want that data, AI models provide genuinely useful information. I like seeing my sac rate in real time so I can consciously adjust breathing patterns and improve air consumption. But that's after 8,000 plus dives. I'm not splitting attention between computer and environment the way newer divers do. So who should choose AI dive computers? You're a strong candidate if you fit any of these profiles. Technical and decompression divers doing deep wreck penetration, cave diving, or extended range dives where precise workload monitoring adds a safety margin to complex decompression planning. The adaptive algorithms and exertion tracking provide data that validates or questions your dive plan execution in real time.
Divers with cardiac history or age-related health concerns who've been medically cleared for diving but want objective physiological monitoring. The biometric data gives you and your physician documentation of how your body responds to depth, pressure, and physical exertion underwater, something traditional computers can't provide. Cold water divers operating in conditions where early hypothermia detection matters, assuming you use chest strap sensors instead of wrist-based optical sensors. Wrist sensors fail too often below 50 degrees in my experience, but chest straps paired with Bluetooth transmitters work reliably down to freezing. You should also be comfortable with technology troubleshooting, sensor calibration, and software updates. AI computers require more active management than traditional models. If that sounds tedious, stick with traditional. And who should choose traditional dive computers? Traditional dive computers remain the better choice for the majority of recreational divers. Vacation and warm water recreational divers doing 10 to 30 dives per year on reefs, walls, and wrecks within no decompression limits. You don't need biometric monitoring for these profiles. Basic depth, time, and NDL tracking does everything you need, and you'll save $600 to $1,000 that's better spent on a better regulator or travel BCD. Divers who prioritize reliability and simplicity over feature richness. Traditional computers have proven track records with failure modes that are predictable and manageable. Battery dies? Replace it in 5 minutes. Pressure sensor drifts? You'll catch it during pre-dive checks. Optical heart rate sensor stops working at depth? You're out $400 and a week without your computer during repairs. Budget-conscious divers who'd rather put money toward more diving or better core equipment. A good traditional dive computer for around $400 to $500, paired with proper training and conservative dive practices, keeps you just as safe as an AI model costing triple that amount. New divers still building foundational skills in buoyancy control, navigation, and situational awareness. You don't need the distraction of biometric data when you should be focused on mastering the basics. Get 50 to 100 dives under your belt with a traditional computer, then decide if AI features add value to your diving.
Let me answer a few questions I get asked all the time. Do AI dive computers really prevent decompression sickness better than traditional computers? There's no clinical evidence that AI dive computers reduce DCS risk more effectively than traditional dive computers, used with appropriate conservatism settings. The adaptive algorithms theoretically account for increased nitrogen uptake during high workload dives, but decades of safe diving have been done using fixed Buhlmann or RGBM algorithms with gradient factors. What matters most is staying well within NDLs, ascending slowly, doing safety stops, and avoiding sawtooth profiles, all of which work identically on both computer types.
Can you use an AI dive computer as a traditional dive computer if the biometric sensors fail? Yes, all AI dive computers function as traditional dive computers if the biometric sensors fail or lose accuracy. You simply lose the heart rate monitoring, adaptive algorithm adjustments, and workload tracking. But core depth, time, NDL, and air integration features continue working normally. I've dived with multiple AI computers after sensor failure, and they performed reliably in traditional mode, though you're obviously not getting the features you paid for and should pursue warranty service or sensor replacement when practical. How accurate are heart rate readings from dive computer wrist sensors at depth? Wrist-based optical heart rate sensors typically maintain plus or minus 3 to 5 beats per minute in warm water above 65 degrees with proper fit, but accuracy degrades to plus or minus 10 to 15 beats per minute or complete dropout in cold water below 50 degrees due to peripheral vasoconstriction reducing capillary blood flow. Chest strap sensors using electrical signal detection perform significantly better in cold conditions and maintain accuracy across temperature ranges, but require separate transmitters and Bluetooth pairing that adds complexity and potential failure points to your gear configuration. After 4 decades of testing dive computers in every imaginable condition, here's what I tell people standing in my shop trying to decide between AI dive computers versus traditional dive computers. Buy the computer that matches your actual diving, not the diving you imagine doing. If you're doing technical dives, have medical reasons to monitor exertion, or genuinely value real-time workload data, AI computers deliver measurable benefits worth the cost. If you're doing recreational reef dives and staying conservative, a traditional computer does everything you need with better reliability and half the price.
I dive both. Shearwater Peregrine for regular recreational work, Garmin MK3i when I'm testing equipment or doing deeper technical profiles where I want biometric data. But if I could only own one, I'd take the traditional computer every time. Proven technology, longer lifespan, easier maintenance, and one less thing to worry about when I should be focused on the dive. Your computer is life support equipment. Choose based on reliability first, features second. The ocean doesn't care what's on your wrist. It cares whether you're making smart decisions and diving within your limits. No algorithm, AI or traditional, fixes poor judgment or inadequate training. That's it for this episode of the Scuba Gear Lab podcast. Thanks for spending your time with us today. New episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so there's always something fresh to dig into. If this episode helped you out, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave us a 5-star rating and write a quick review. It's honestly the best way for other divers to find the show when they're searching for gear advice. And go ahead and hit subscribe or follow so you get a notification the second a new episode drops. I'll see you next time.